And welcome back to South Texas Now. We're here with Mr. Joe Flores, back with some questions about the law. So a lot of young people, especially my age, are really fascinated with a law career. But here on South Texas Now, we want to give the utmost honesty and truthfulness to our viewers. So what is something that you would kind of tell to open the eyes of the viewer to the law world? What is like a reality check, in a sense, that you can kind of give to someone?
Oh, let me tell you. Where do I count the ways? But first of all, I don't want to discourage anybody who wants to go to law school. And those people that are older or haters, or how many times have I heard I could have been a lawyer? Well, yeah. Kill yourself 7 to 10 years and you can be. And I say there's too many lawyers. There's not enough good ones. There's not enough people that care. So the first part of it is, do I want to be a lawyer for the right reasons? Or do I have this romantic idea that I'm going to get a Mercedes, I'm going to have a 4,000 square foot house with a pool, I'm going to be regarded as one of the elite in society? Those are all the wrong reasons to go, because the law is very, very demanding, and it just doesn't work that way.
Right. I think that's a great answer. I think a lot of people, see the bling bling and the money and they're like, I want to be a lawyer. But you're right. You need to have the right reasons behind that. You want to advocate for people who are less fortunate. You want to be a voice to someone who may not be able to speak for themselves in court or know what's going on. And so they need someone who's going to be there for all the right reasons. So what are the most challenging cases that you've seen in your lifetime as a lawyer?
I think some of the hardest cases are federal cases, because the government, by the time they've been working on a case, let's say a drug case or a checkpoint case, they have been working on it a long time. And nothing against state cops or local police. But when the federal government and the FBI or Homeland have been working on stuff, they do their homework. And we're talking hours and hours of observation and hours of, and I can't talk about any specific case, it's classified, but criminal informants. I mean, when I think I can tell you this one of the most heartbreaking cases I had was a very tough drug dealer. He was assigned to me when I was on the CJA panel and just learning. I was a really young lawyer. And, tons of drugs, marijuana mainly. He had a great system. And he said, when I find out who has been ratting me out, boy, I'm going to do this, this, and that. Well, as a lawyer, you've got to stop them because you have to withdraw. If somebody says, I killed somebody yesterday, you have to take that to the grave like a priest would. If somebody says, I'm going to kill a guard today, you have a non-delegable duty for a future act to withdraw and at least alarm somebody that he's going to hurt himself or another person without giving away any sort of privilege. So those are the hardest cases. Federal cases are tough. You're dealing with IRS, FBI, Homeland, and a bunch of other agencies at the same time. Then you enter into a world that's very structured. U.S. attorneys and everybody, they've got their indictments. And basically, it's the same as state court. You get arrested, then they tell you how much your bond is, and there's no bonding companies in federal court. They do their own bonding. And then they already have all their history. They know all about you. They know where you live, the arrest you've had. Then they set a bond, maybe. And then later on, you have an arraignment, just like you see on Law and Order. Docket number, blah, blah, not guilty. You better say not guilty. And then we get discovery, which we can't leave the building with it. It's that sensitive. Sometimes we're dealing with things that are very, very sensitive, life and death. And if I leaked any of that information, or somebody did, somebody can get dead. Or got, as they say on the streets. And then we go back and either we say, I'm going to trial, or I've reached a deal. And you have an XY coordinate, and it shows how naughty or nice you've been. And then the offense level, you meet those two together, and those are more or less the months that you're going to serve. Now, in the federal system, you can rat on your grandmother, do all the right things, and become a cooperator. And the incentive is there because you can get up to half your sentence off. Nothing's guaranteed, and you better not lie, and you better tell the truth. In the words of Judge Bobby Galvan, former assistant U.S. attorney, chased Pablo Escobar, and now is sitting on the bench, he said, either you tell the feds everything or you say nothing. There's no lying or in between. That's what makes it hard. And those sentences are draconian. You go away a long time. It's not like state court where you get 7 years out in 2. And so the stakes are very high. I think those are the hardest cases. I've seen pregnant women go, and the hardest also people that maybe had a chance to be here, but they broke the law, they blew it, and they got deported back to a war-torn country like Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Flores, for giving that answer to our viewers who may not, fully understand. Not even I knew all the way of the federal processes and how the court goes. So as an attorney, do you ever feel some sort of moral dilemma, having to defend people that may not have necessarily done the right thing? How do you kind of tackle that?
It's not easy. I have selected cases that I simply won't take because of a conflict. Some individuals won't take a case because they're against abortion. Others won't take a case because they have daughters and they don't want to take sexual cases or sexual crimes. We're not saying that the person is guilty before proven innocent. That's not the way it works in this country. But just seeing or hearing the facts. Some people say it's against my moral compass to work on these cases. Everyone deserves a competent attorney under the Sixth Amendment, and everybody deserves a speedy trial. Everybody deserves that. But you can, on some moral objections, say no. You don't have to take everything that comes through the door. Although some individuals will take anything that comes through the door because they got to pay the bills.
Right. Well, going more towards how to get into law school, to transition here, what are some tips that you can offer the viewers who may be interested in applying to law school, the process behind that, the LSAT, for example, anything that you have to tell them?
Read, and read. You have to have a great vocabulary. You also have to have logical reasoning in your head. Jill, Joan, Jack, and Bill have 4 coats, and they check their coats. Bill can't wear yellow. Jan or Jean can't wear green. Blah, blah, blah. Which of the following are true, if any? And then they give you like a choice. So you have to make like logical reasoning. That's one of them. That's the biggest part is they want to see how you think, and they also want to see how you write. So there is a writing sample. To practice for it, now online they've got great LSAT stuff. I would encourage people to take a review. But to save money, and if you don't have money, go and get at half-price books some of these LSAT practice tests. I guarantee you're going to know within 10% of what you're going to score if you take enough of these tests. I studied CNN low, CNN medium, and CNN high. And guess what? Next to me was a piano recital when I took my my LSAT way back when in the 90s, and everybody was complaining, and I was like, I was preparing for the worst. And LSAT is just the beginning. And then when you get in, it is a different culture. It's very competitive. People that made A's and that were in honor society, newsflash, now you're with the smartest of the smart, and everybody graduated in the top 10. Some were valedictorians. Everybody's smart. So now you compete for grades and you compete for gigs. The higher the grade, the better place you get to clerk. It's a jungle out there.
So for individuals who think that they want to go in the law, what place should they start to maybe get a glimpse of what it's like to be for sure that they want this for their career? Should they try to seek internships, try to become a paralegal? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that it's a good question. I say, first of all, we have an open courts doctrine. I wouldn't go to federal right away, but Texas state courts, watch a trial. Look at what lawyers do. If you're lucky enough to know a lawyer, volunteer your time and start learning. Read about court opinions. Follow how legal research and writing is done. And it sounds boring, but it really isn't. But it's not Law and Order. I wish every case would end in 30 minutes. It doesn't. They last years.
Right.
I know we got a couple of minutes left, and I've gone on, but it's just a passion of mine.
Right. So how do you feel that both your dual career of law and healthcare has impacted Nueces County?
Well, I feel like a warrior poet. I mean, some days, in the morning or in the afternoon, I might be helping somebody that is vulnerable, that has a few months to live. And I'm doing that as a nurse practitioner. I'm checking that their meds are okay. I'm looking at them medically in coordination with a doctor. That's the way it is here in Texas. I'm basically practicing medicine with the doctor collaborating with me. I write the meds, I write the lab, I do everything. That's what my brother Fred does too. And then I go and I've got to take on some really nasty case, and I've got to put on a warrior face. And the main difference between medicine and the law is a zero-sum game. You win or you lose. It is not in between. It's a war out there, and you have to put on that face. But you don't have to be a jerk about it. People remember if you were a jerk. And I think I've gotten more by being reasonable with the other side. And there's always compromise. Remember, 95% of cases don't end up in a jury verdict or get some sort of huge settlement. Usually in between. And I know I've taken up your time. You're telling me the 1 minute. Ask me anything.
So for those who may not feel that medicine or law is their future, what other words of encouragement do you have for them to know that whatever career they may choose is still important?
Nobody has to be a lawyer or a doctor in this country. In fact, a lot of us aren't cut out for it. Whatever you do, just do it with all your heart. I'm serious. If you're going to be the carpenter that builds mansions, build the best. If you're going to be the plumber that fixes everything from school districts to a person's house, be the best. If you're going to be a teacher, like my dad was for 30 years, be the best at it that you can. Anything you do, as long as you do it with all your heart, you'll do well.
Well, thank you, Mr. Flores, for your time today, and thank you to our viewers for joining us on today's edition of South Texas Now. Know that we are always here for you and for the community.
Thank you, Vanessa.